to say, hey, we line him up out there. We know we're going to get man. Well, we'll throw it all over the yard. Having 400 yards passing is nice, but you can have some issues, too, especially when Dak throws 3 interceptions. That stuff is Zeke's your best player.
They used to do a lot more out the backfield with him.
And they still can. You're still getting the same coverages. Just be a little bit more creative with Zeke, with your best player, and utilize him in the passing game.
Dallas started the season 3-0. Then they lost to the Saints and then lost yesterday. After this game, Dak Prescott said maybe we were sniffing ourselves too much.
Sure.
We'll leave that there.
Yeah.
Lindsay?
That's fine.
Chiefs dropped 1-2 yesterday, their first loss of the season, and we could spend a half hour talking about all the things the Colts did right to make that happen, from the coaching to the O-line, Marlon Mack, time of possession, defense. They had the entire formula clicking for them yesterday, and we've got a guy in Santa Clara for tonight's game who's going to tell us how they did it. Kurt Warner getting ready for Browns-Niners. How did the Colts hold Kansas City to 13 points?
Well, you mentioned it, Lindsay. I mean, it was really both sides of the ball. I know we want to give all the credit to the defense, but their offense held the ball for 22 minutes in the second half. That helps to keep Patrick Mahomes on the sideline. But when he was on the field, they challenged him, and we've seen this for 2 weeks in a row. Detroit started that blueprint. The Colts went after him last night and said, we're going to challenge the receivers. We're going to throw off their timing. We're going to make the Chiefs have to be more perfect than they've been in the past. And so they got after Patrick Mahomes. They made him uncomfortable in the pocket. They made the big plays down the field tougher to get. But let's just remember, there was no Sammy Watkins. There was no Tyreek Hill. So it sounds really good the last couple weeks, but are people going to be able to do that when they get that speed back on the football field? I think is going to be the biggest question.
Ankle injury clearly an issue for Mahomes last night. Do you expect that to be an issue moving forward?
Well, I think it always concerns you. Anytime you have an ankle injury, those are things that pop up. We've seen it a couple times already this year, that he's got it rolled a little bit. He hasn't quite been himself. And here's the thing about Patrick Mahomes is he's really good inside the pocket. He's great outside the pocket. So if you take away a little of that mobility, yeah, I think it affects that team big time. So something we have to watch for moving forward is that if he's not able to get out of the pocket and be that special player, how much does that affect them and just see every down, how they have to attack people?
Warner live from Santa Clara, and we'll have more on that game in just a bit. Also more on what the Colts offense did in last night's game. That's coming up. Enjoy the game, Kurt. Also impressive yesterday, New Orleans, which not only held Tampa Bay's offense in check, but which took Tampa's defense to town. 31 points, 457 yards, 345 through the air. It was Teddy Bridgewater's best game since 2015 with 4 passing touchdowns and a 131 passer rating.
I feel like I have the easy job. All I have to do is throw the ball to Mike Thomas, Jared Cook, Ted Ginn, Austin Carr, Alvin Kamara, Josh Hill, Taysom Hill. Just find a way to get those guys the ball and they'll make plays for us. And today was one of those days. Everything was clicking. We knew coming into this game that we were going to have a lot of opportunities to, score points and get down the red zone and do some good things.
Nothing better than a comeback story, Willie McGinest, unless it is a comeback story in which you show people that thing you think that I cannot do, I can do it, which is kind of what Bridgewater did yesterday.
Absolutely, and I was one of those guys saying if they only can score 12 points, they wasn't going to beat the Bucs. So he went out and proved not only me, but a lot of people wrong, and this offense can be really explosive. And what I saw from Teddy was I saw a poise. He's always poised, but I saw a guy in the pocket that used his pocket to make big plays down the field. Here's a deep out right here. He wasn't throwing this pass a couple of weeks ago. He was comfortable in the pocket. He was standing in the pocket. He was letting the routes develop. And they said, we're going to be more aggressive. We're going to win those one-on-ones. Ted Ginn right here with a deep post. Teddy Bridgewater was making those plays down the field, opening up. There was also still feeding the short to intermediate passes. But when they got those one-on-one situations or those windows, he stayed patient in the pocket and he delivered.
Was this a game-specific thing, do you think, for them, or do you think that this is a new dimension to their offense that we can expect to see moving forward?
Well, he's not the original starter, right? So he came into this offense a few weeks ago. So it takes time for Sean Payton to build around Teddy, for him to put a game plan around him. We know he's not Drew Brees, but he is a really, really good quarterback, but they're different. So you got a game plan different. So I think each week we're starting to see more and more and more grow, and this offense starting to grow.
Sean Payton putting together a really good Coach of the Year argument there. No Brees for 3 weeks now, and the Saints are still at the top of the NFC South with wins over Seattle, Dallas, Dallas and a Tampa Bay team that hung a 55 on the defending NFC champs. Just ran out of air just 1 week ago. It's not bad, right, Scott?
I got your back, partner. I got plenty of air. You know that. All right, the Jacksonville Jaguars in Carolina yesterday lost the game, but Jalen Ramsey was not on the field. In fact, Jalen Ramsey was not even with his team. This is old video here of the last time he played with the Jags. That was back in week 3. Ramsey, who's requested a trade out of Jacksonville, is also dealing with a back injury. Let's bring in NFL media insider Ian Rappaport right now. Ian, Jalen was not with his team yesterday. He was in Houston. In fact, there's a photo of him that floated around social media yesterday of him hanging out with Deshaun Watson. Help us make some sense of this one.
This one actually does make sense. I know everybody freaked out when they saw Jalen Ramsey and Deshaun Watson having dinner together via Instagram. Obviously, the Jaguars are not going to trade him to the Houston Texans, nor, by the way, do they intend to trade him anywhere. The reason that Jalen Ramsey was in Houston was because today, earlier this morning, Jalen Ramsey had his visit with a back specialist. This, from what I understand, was at the request of the Jaguars to get checked out the injury that has kept him out the last 2 games. Ramsey is in some pain, believes he has a back injury. From what I understand, the team does not think that there is anything majorly structurally wrong, so they sent him to a specialist to figure it out. Now he's going to head back to Jacksonville. It's going to get together, and the team is going to meet and really figure out how to proceed with the situation. Ramsey still wants to be traded. The team does not want to trade him. What actually is the next step for all parties?
Well, trading deadline is 3 weeks away. Latest headlines now, Mason Rudolph was back in the Steelers' locker room today. A day after a hit left him motionless on the field for several minutes in one of the scariest scenes of the season. Rudolph was reportedly smiling in the locker room this afternoon. He is in concussion protocol this week. We'll keep you posted. Bad loss for Baltimore. Baltimore won the game, but the individual loss right here. Safety Tony Jefferson is out for the rest of the season with a torn ACL. Jefferson was injured